Are we ready, gentlemen and ladies?
Yes.
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 Good. Call the meeting to order. Adequate notice of this regular public meeting has been provided in accordance with the Open Public Meeting Act by posting notice on the bulletin board, the municipal building, by publishing in the Express Times and the Star Ledger, the official papers of the town of Phillipsburg, by posting notice on the website of the town of Phillipsburg, filing said notice with the town clerk of Phillipsburg, requesting it pursuant to the Open Publics Meeting Act as advertised. Action may be taken at this meeting. I'd like you to stand now for the Pledge of Allegiance. Mr. Mayor, if you could put up the flag. I pledge allegiance
To the flag
of the United States
United States of America
and to the
and
republic
republic
which is
which it stands,
One
one
nation,
nation,
under
under God, indivisible,
with
liberty,
liberty.
liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Okay. Board policy is the policy of the town of Phillipsburg Land Use Board not to hear any new cases after 10 p.m. and no new witnesses after 10:30. Okay, I did flag salute a little early. Kelly, attendance?
Mr. Turnbull. I thought he was on here.
He is
Mr.
on.
Rooney. Oh, you have to unmute yourself.
Sorry, I'm here.
Okay, thanks. Mr. Rooney. Mr. Benjavenga.
Here.
Mr. Brotzman.
Here.
Mr. Duffy.
Here.
Council Vice President Fulper.
Here, you can call me
Mr.
Mr. or Bobby.
Excuse me?
I said you can call me Mr. or Bobby.
Oh, good. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Hanasak. Mr. Penrose.
Here.
Mr. Samarelli.
Here.
Mayor Tersigni.
Here,
Mr. Zwicker.
Here.
Okay. And, there we go. Okay. Next item, resolution for Roarmark. To adopt a resolution regarding guardhouse. Do I hear a motion on this resolution?
So moved.
second,
Who moved it?
Bernie.
Bernie.
Brotzman.
Okay. And Mayor, you seconded it?
Yes.
yes, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Are there any questions considering this motion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye,
Against? The ayes have it. Second resolution denying preliminary site plan, use variance and bulk variance approval in the case of number 19-01, Ingerman Development Company LLC. Do I have a motion?
Make a motion.
Second.
Chairman,
Yeah, who seconded that?
Severia.
Thank
Okay,
you.
so, but he can't. You did not, you were not there in last year for this, correct?
Yes, I was.
You were.
He was an alternate in September.
Okay. Did you participate then? You were there for the meeting? The
Yes.
hearing? Okay, I just want to make sure. Okay.
Chairman,
Yes?
seeing as I was not here on the planning board at that time or on the land use board, I will be abstaining from this vote.
Yeah, so let me just clarify. If I believe there are 5 people here now that are eligible to vote on this. This would be Mr. Duffy, Mr. Zwicker, Mr. Samarelli,
To Penrose.
Mr. Penrose, and
Mr. Tersigni.
no, he recused himself.
Oh, that's right.
So just the people who heard the matter in September can vote on it. Severio, Samarelli, Duffy, Zwicker, and Penrose. Does that sound right?
Sounds right.
Yes.
Only 5. Okay, just so the minutes are clear on that.
Mm-hmm. Would you prefer we did a roll call on that?
Yeah, I think the appropriate way would to be to, you have the motion, you had it seconded, and just get a roll call to confirm that the resolution that I prepared, it memorializes the action that was taken. That's all you're doing.
So Bill, who were the 5 again? Duffy, Zwicker, Samarelli, Penrose, and who was the 5th?
Severio.
Who?
Severio?
Severio, okay, thank you. Okay, do you want to do roll call? Want me to do roll call?
If you would.
Okay. Mr. Duffy,
Yes.
Mr. Zwicker,
Yes.
Mr. Samarelli,
Yes.
Mr. Penrose,
Yes.
Mr. Severio.
Did he respond?
He did
There-
not.
Severio is Samarelli.
Same person.
That is, okay.
It's only
So-
4.
So that's only 4.
Okay, yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, there's only 4, right? Okay.
Okay,
So
Yep.
4, that's fine. So Ms. Leffler, just a reminder that after Mr. Duffy signs these 2 resolutions, they need to be sent to both applicants, both Romark and Ingerman.
okay, thank you.
Okay?
Yeah, and Kelly, we should have a signed copy for the file too.
Okay,
Copy's fine.
Okay, we have nothing for completeness. We have no correspondence that we know of, Kelly.
no, we do not have any.
No new business. Old business. 445 James Street. Mr. Edelston.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, this is the continued amended application of 445 James Street LLC. As some of the board members who were on the board last year may recall, this was initially presented as a 3-lot minor subdivision. We heard a lot of the comments of the board members then, as well as many members of the public who felt that it was too dense a development for this tract. So therefore, the application has been amended to provide for a 2-lot minor subdivision. There are some minimal variances required in connection with that. However, the minimum lot size is far exceeded. It's 5,000 square foot zone. This tract is 15,000 square feet, and it's proposed 2 lots exceeding 7,500 square feet each. At the December meeting,
Okay, Mr. Edelston, could you hold on one sec? I just want to make the board aware of 2 things. First of all, as Mr. Edelston said, this is a continuation. The notices that were given out earlier continued over because we continued to tell people as they came to the meetings that it was going to be carried to this meeting. The second is that the taxes are up to date with this property. Okay? Thank you, Mr. Edelston.
thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I can note at the outset, there was a question that was raised in the stanchion letter. The two lots proposed by this subdivision will be developed as single-family homes. As some of you may recall, way back when, before I was involved, there was some talk about some multifamily or duplex homes in connection with this lot, and that is not what's proposed. We propose to conform with the use permitted in the zone. At the December meeting, our engineer, Chris Nusser, who is also present this evening, was sworn and testified. He will give some additional testimony this evening in connection with this application to refresh the board members who did hear the December presentation, as well as to update the new members of the board who are hearing this for the first time. Scott,
Mr. Edelson, I just want to interject there. I think it's appropriate to take this application from the beginning because it is a new board and it is there's a different nature of the application. So in order to make sure this is done properly, I'm want your engineer to start from the beginning.
Okay. Do we need to have Mr. Nusser re-sworn and re-qualified, or can we just indicate that he was qualified as a expert in the field of civil engineering and also as a professional planner? And further, do we need to have his qualifications put on the record again as well?
Okay. On that, clearly needs to be sworn. I solicited his CV from him earlier because it's the board's position now that we're going to be seeking CVs from experts to help move things along and make them part of the record. I did forward that to Ms. Leffler. I don't anticipate any of the board members will have any questions on his qualifications, but I would like that document marked as Exhibit 1.
Okay, if I could have Chris sworn then, please, Scott, and
I think Mr. Duffy wants to say something. Hold on.
I did one thing, just so everybody's aware. The mayor, Todd Tersigni, is recused himself from this. So
Right.
so everybody is aware he's recused. Okay, go ahead with the swear.
all right, Scott, if you want to swear Mr. Nusser in.
Mr. Nusser, let me find you here. There you are. Okay. Mr. Nusser, are you muted?
No.
Okay. Mr. Nusser, do you swear that your testimony here will be truthful and accurate to the best of your ability under penalty of perjury, so help you God?
Yes.
All right, Chris, for the record, please, could you give your professional qualifications?
Sure. Again, it's Chris Nusser, N-U-S-S-E-R. I'm a licensed professional engineer and planner in the state of New Jersey. Both licenses are in good standing. Been practicing land use engineering for the past 15 plus years, and have appeared before this board and many others, over 60 boards in the state of New Jersey, and been accepted as a expert as in both engineering and planning.
I would submit Mr. Nusser's qualifications and would offer him as an expert in the field of civil engineering.
Anybody have any questions for Mr. Nusser on his experience? Go on.
And
Right.
Mr. Edelston, are you moving exhibit number 1 into evidence, the CV?
Yes, with A1.
Okay.
All right, Chris, perhaps you can give a narrative rather than question answer. I think it would flow a little easier if we do it that way. So if you can give an overview of the application. We have responded to some of Engineer Schreck's comments in his most recent letter.
And just point of order for the record. This is a continuation, as you said, Bill, of a previous application. Original application was for 3 lots. It's been reduced to 2 lot subdivision. And the previous application was deemed complete, and this is continuation. So I would recommend the board considers the application complete, and it still holds.
I don't think any formal action needs to be taken, but Mr. Schreck's point is well taken. It's continued to be deemed complete.
Thank you.
The floor is yours.
Thank you. There's somebody talking in the background. I don't know if they can mute themselves. Appreciate that. Okay, so the property in question is block 2307, lot 5, known as 445 James Street. It's a 15,000 square foot plus lot, and it's located in the district. Proposed, I'm going to put up, provided I can share. Good. This is just the submitted plans. Nothing more, not altered in any way.
Mr. Nusser, just for record purposes, I would like to have this marked as Exhibit 2.
Okay.
And can we just say minor subdivision plat, Exhibit 2? Would that be accurate?
I would say, yes. It's the 6 pages that constitute the submitted plans.
Okay, so we're going to mark all 6 pages as one exhibit? Is that okay with you?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, just do it that way. We'll just, the submitted plans dated or last revised January 11th this year, prepared by my office.
Okay.
So I'm starting on page 2, minor subdivision plat. As you can see, and as mentioned a couple times now, proposing is a 2-lot subdivision of the property. Both lots, they're going to be equal in size, for the most part, maybe not perfectly, and they will conform to all the bulk standards. So where there's a 5,000 square foot minimum area, these lots are in excess of 7,500 square feet. I believe, actually, look, they're both 7,900 square feet in size. So they're far in excess of what the required is in the zone. Again, they meet all the requirements for frontage. The only item that we are seeking relief from is the front yard setbacks for the houses. The reason for this is, again, well, so Mr. Schreck identified these as variances per the ordinance. The requirement in the ordinance is for a 25-foot front yard setback. The ordinance also has a provision that allows for a prevailing setback to be permitted. So if you go per the ordinance, I believe it's 200 feet in either direction, and identify the setbacks of the houses that are 200 feet in either direction, the average of their front yard setbacks can be your setback. So we had prepared that as we discussed again previously, which is shown on sheet 3, the calculation for the prevailing setbacks. So the proposed houses meet the prevailing setbacks as defined in the ordinance, but it's been identified that that's required for the application. So we continue to seek it.
Chris, it's Stan. If I could just jump in for a second on that so the board understands. The zone requires, as Chris said, a 25-foot setback by ordinance. However, the language in it's under section 625-8, paragraph E1, it gives the method that the board can consider for relief of that variance. And it specifically says every front yard should have a minimum depth as defined. However, in all residential zones, R75 and R50, the provisions governing front yards and setbacks may be relaxed when the average front yard setback or average distance of existing residential structures on the same side of the street and within 200 feet of the lot in question is less than the required minimum. In such case, the front yard and setback distances on each lot shall be the same as the average distance. So, and that is actually what a planner would give as the relief, the testimony for the relief from that setback. In this case, and I've never seen this before, the ordinance is telling us what relief we should be asking for. So that's why I defined it as a variance that's required, but they gave the relief as the ordinance asks you to do under that section. And Chris, you can continue with that.
Thanks, Ken. Yes, and so, yes, essentially the relief is being requested in the manner that the ordinance allows for it. Again, it's better to maintain that consistent frontage of houses to keep everything looking consistent as you're going down the street, as opposed to having two houses that are pushed further back and look out of character. The plans propose, again, a single-family dwelling on each lot, as well as parking areas off of Webster Street in the rear, There's relief associated with that as well. The parking per the ordinance should be stacked 2 deep and not 2 cars wide. What we're proposing is the 2 spaces to be within the setback of Webster Alley, where again, the ordinance allows for 1. We could comply with this. We could do 2 spaces. We could do 2 spaces head on, one behind the other. I think it's reasonable to and appropriate in this condition, especially considering that these lots are wider than your standard 50-foot lots. These lots are 62 and change feet wide. So having 2 cars in width, it's just more functional for anyone who's using the lots. The owners. Sorry, I'm having a furry friend join me here and isn't taking for an answer. To have 2 cars, it just makes it easier to be able to get in and out of the driveway without having to do the dance, which I'm also familiar with. Hey, we need to go outside and shift cars around because I need to leave before you in the morning. So it's just a more functional way to allow for parking. And again, there's no real negative impact here from allowing the parking side by side as opposed to head in. It reduces the impervious coverage where, we could make it deep. We could add more pavement. We could do this deeper into the site. We just have to be within the setbacks, and we could provide additional parking in the setbacks, but that's just more impervious surface. That's not really needed in this case. Continuing on with the proposal. So moving to sheet 4, you can see that the lot right now, which is vacant, grades from the north down to the south towards the intersection of James and Moby Alley. These drainage patterns are going to be generally maintained. Obviously, water has to be run around the houses to allow for proper drainage. That will be accomplished, but the general drainage pattern of putting the water down to Movie Alley towards that corner is going to continue. The utilities are going to be, again, all public utilities. There is a design waiver, which we discussed last time, for having the electric service or the telephone electric cable service be above ground as opposed to underground. Your ordinance requires that all of that be installed underground. In this case, all the line work is above ground in its condition. The lines run on the opposite side of James Street, and so in order to run the lines below ground, you'd either have to go below James Street with the lines, or you'd have to bring it to a pole within the right-of-way at James Street and then drop it from there, which would still require relief. So the request was to allow for the above-ground telephone electric cable connections consistent with what we discussed last time. Again, understanding this is a new application, but this was something that we had discussed and I believe had agreed upon. I believe, Mr. Schreck, your recommendation was that that was acceptable at the previous hearing. Otherwise, it's a pretty straightforward application before you. Relief is limited in nature and ultimately consistent with your ordinances as it relates to the front yard setbacks. Again, the parking, the variance for the 2 spaces side by side is, again, I think a practical alternative given the width of the lots and the additional functionality with the reduced need for impervious surfaces. I think there's a couple points to hit on in Mr. Schreck's memo. in here. I think for the most part, we've addressed his concerns. There are a few items to go through. So I'm looking at the letter dated January 25, 2021. And item number 1 was a discussion relative to stormwater management. Again, houses that are shown on here are just typical boxes. They're not actual designs. At the time when a plot plan would be done for the houses, locations, roof leaders, et cetera, would be further refined. I note this lot again is slightly more than 15,000 square feet, and therefore we can't exceed the 1 acre threshold for a major stormwater project. Equally, the impervious coverage limit is 40%, so there's not a way for us to exceed a 1/4 acre of impervious surfaces. So this would always be a minor project as far as the stormwater rules go, not requiring any stormwater management. Well, you know what, I'll just go through them all since we're considering this somewhat new. Item number,
Stand by, Chris. Under comment, I was on mute. It took me a while to get off of it. Under comment 1, the only thing I was at when bill permit is applied that the engineering department reviews the grading plan. That could be a condition of the resolution.
yeah, absolutely. I think that's a more than reasonable thing to condition.
The runoff is going to go toward the alley, but then down towards James Street, not into the neighboring properties, correct?
Yeah, it doesn't run towards the neighboring properties for the topography. It's running down to the intersection and then onto James Street where it would be collected.
Right.
Okay, thank you.
And the grading plan at time of construction will verify that and ensure that.
Stan, I just want to clarify, you asked in the resolution that the engineering department, do what?
We review the grading plan at the time of construction
Okay.
plan. That's typical.
Thank
We
you.
usually ask for that.
Item 2, we'll provide copies of the title work for the properties. The question is related to, going back to sheet 2 here, Webster Alley is wider than most of the other, actually than the rest of its section in front of the properties here. The pavement extends actually onto the properties, and we're proposing removing the sections of Webster Street that are physically on the property. And so we'll provide the title report. There's no easements or any other allowances for that to be there. I will note that per the previous discussion, we agreed to resurface Webster across the length of the project area. So this hatched area, this cross-hatched area, is the section of Webster that will be resurfaced as part of the application. For item number 3, it's regarding installing curbing along both Webster and Mooley. The previous discussion had been that we were seeking a waiver from the installation of curbing. That waiver had been supported by Mr. Schreck, and I'm assuming you continue to support that waiver, noting that none of the alleys within the town are curbed, and given their narrowness, curbing them in can make it more difficult for people to access it, and further that the RSIS does not require curbing along an alley.
I can support it for those reasons. However, the waiver must come from council per the ordinance.
Oh,
I
okay.
don't think the planning board, the way I read this, and you can help me, whether the planning board doesn't have authority to make that waiver, and it's, let's say ordinance section 545-18, and the operative paragraph is B. The town council may waive the requirement in subsection A, which is requirement for curb on new construction, if the municipal engineer certifies that the existing conditions prohibit the required improvements from being made in a safe fashion. Chris's testimony I can support, but the actual waiver has to come from mayor and council. I think that could be a condition of approval.
That's,
Sky, your opinion on that?
I agree. That's fine.
Okay.
Yep.
if that's the mechanism, then we will follow it. Just going through item 4, some additional detail on the replacement of the curb ramp at the corner here on James Street, making sure it's up to current code. We will do that. Item 5, I believe we have a note regarding this. Yeah, it's general note number 1. We'll replace any of the curb and gutter or concrete sidewalk along James Street that is in a state of disrepair. If it's either damaged during construction or it's in a state of disrepair now, we will replace it as directed by the town engineer. Item 6, we'll address that. I understand that we're still showing the tree protection fencing, which isn't required anymore, off property. So we'll clean the plan up to remove that.
That's the easiest way, yes.
Yeah. Item 7 we discussed. Item 9 we discussed. Item 11. Again, I think that the anticipation it's going to, for construction purposes, is it's most likely to be one house at a time. They may build both houses concurrently. I don't think that's been fully set. But I think the concerns were construction access, construction vehicles, and impacts to parking along James Street. And obviously the preferred approach would be to use, certainly for the house on the corner, to come in off the alley and use that as access to limit the impacts.
Right, and plus these comments carried from the original letter as updated per this application, and that obviously this is a considerable reduction of what the impact would be if we were putting 3 houses in.
Right. Item 12 doesn't need to be addressed. Item 13, we had provided no parking signs on both of the alleys mid-block. And certainly if we need to review their locations in any way, we'll work.
Yeah, we'll just tweak that per the MUTCD at the time they're installed.
Yep, that's perfectly acceptable.
Mm-hmm.
Then we get down to page 5, item 24. We understand that the code requirements as applicable, we will comply with them. We will obtain the will serve letters in 25. 26, we acknowledge we need to get the lot numbers approved by the assessor. 27, we will provide the electronic copies. 28, we will coordinate the house numbers with the 911 coordinator. And 29 is planting trees along the frontages of the public roads. I think before we had a concern that we didn't have room given the utilities in the houses. I think now with the with having a little bit more room, we have the ability to do that. certainly on James Street. So we'll comply with that. 30 is a note for us to comply with, which we will. And 31 is just a note about, there was comments made by the public in the previous hearing that this site had a prior industrial use on it and there's a potential for contamination. Obviously, that's would be a very substantial impact on the property if there was some sort of contamination that that prevented it from being developed. We did look into this. We got records from the DEP on it. Not the easiest thing to do these days. They're a little backed up in the office, but we did get confirmation that they issued previously a no further action letter that was unrestricted for the property. So there are no restrictions to development on here, and certainly nothing that would prevent what's being proposed. And
We'll submit that as part of the record as well.
yes,
Thank you.
Good due diligence.
that's my presentation for you.
Okay. Does anyone on the board have any questions for Mr. Nesser?
One question I have, the proposal says 1,200 square foot houses. Are you bound to that, or can you go bigger?
No, we're not. We're bound to the requirements of the zone, which
1,200 is the minimal, correct?
yeah, the minimum required is 1,200. The maximum permitted coverage for the lot, total impervious coverage, but certainly the houses could be larger than 1,200 square feet. But they will comply with the requirements of the ordinance.
Anything else, Mr. Penrose?
No, that's it.
Okay. Does anyone else have any questions? I have a question on the turning radius on Webster. Is that corner still going to be indented, cut a little bit?
Yeah, there is still going to be a small portion of it. There's a radius to it. It's not as broad as it currently is.
But there's still some cut there.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. And you're going to line the alley up so it matches the rest, or the Webster Street up so it matches the rest of the street?
Right. That's correct.
Okay. Does anyone else have any questions? Okay. Mr. Wilhelm, is this the time for public comment?
I would ask the applicant if they are moving Exhibit 2 into evidence.
We are.
Okay. And then let's just go back to the DEP letter. Mr. Edelston, you said you were going to make that part of the record. We don't have it to mark as an exhibit, so I think it would be appropriate that we just make that a condition of approval that you submit that letter.
That's fine.
Concur.
Okay. And then if Mr. Schreck doesn't have any questions or comments for Mr. Nusser at this time, I would agree. Yes, you should open that to the public.
I would ask, I'd like to ask Angela, the planner, if she has any comments.
No, just that from reviewing this, it just appears that, this seems to be more in keeping with the character of the neighborhood, and just appreciate the applicant's, willingness to go back and kind of hear what the public had to say last time. And so I think this seems to be a better fit for the neighborhood, and I think it's good.
Okay. Okay. Anything else? Okay, at this time, I'm going to open it up to public comment. If you have, if you're a member of the public and you'd like to comment on this, we need your name, your address, and then your comment, please.
How do I raise my hand? Do I raise my hand?
Okay, Mr. Stein,
Yes.
Stein. Okay, go ahead, Mr. Stein, your name, your address, and
Or
Okay.
my name's Fred Stein, Stine. I work with the Delaware Riverkeeper Network. We're at 925 Canal Street in Bristol, PA.
okay.
I had a question for Mr. Nusser. I think I tuned in a little bit late. I just wanted to hear where the stormwater flow exits the property. It looked like from the diagram in the lower left-hand corner of the diagram, there was possibly, and I'm not sure, possibly like an infiltration area in the sidewalk or near the intersection. Did I misread that? Does the stormwater actually flow off and go into a city stormwater drainage system?
Yes, it does. What you were looking at, that hatched area was construction entrance, stabilized construction.
Okay, so it does go off though, right? There's no infiltration?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Are there any?
Bill, it's Kelly. If people can raise their hand, if they want to be called on, it just makes it flow a little bit easier.
Okay. Does anyone else have any public comment? Are you seeing anything,
I
Kelly?
do not see anything at this time.
Okay, then I'm going to close this to public comment. Thank you. Does anyone on the board have any other comments or questions they'd like to make?
Bill, are we gonna do the variances separate?
I have,
Or would that be part of the whole motion?
I'm going to defer to the attorney, but I was thinking we would do those separate.
That's fine.
Is that okay with you, John?
Yeah, are we ready to do that now?
Unless someone else has any comment for it. Do you have a motion, John?
I'll make a motion to approve the variances.
And by the variances, we're talking the front yard setback and the parking in the back, the too wide versus the too deep.
That's correct.
Was there anything else that I might have missed?
You should approve the taking back of the alley also. The pavement. That they're gonna go up and realign the alley.
Yeah, that's a condition of the approval. It's not a variance.
Yeah.
I think the variances are the front yard setback as identified by Mr. Schreck and the parking, right? Just
Right.
two.
That's correct.
Okay.
Okay, is there a second on that?
That's not including the utility lines, correct?
That's a design waiver.
That's correct.
Correct. That's the one that's got to go to council?
Negative. That's for the
Curb.
eliminating the curbing along Webster Street. and
okay.
Wall
Sorry.
Alley.
All right. Okay, again, I just have a motion from Mr. Penrose. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Ms. Brotzman?
Yes.
Okay. Is there any more discussion on this?
I'd like to reiterate what Angela said, that the applicant addressed the neighborhood's needs and concerns and came back with a considerable improvement to the street in appearance the way the rest of the street is. I think that it should be commended.
Okay, anything else?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes?
I'd like to, is the motion on the floor, does that include the application that's going to pend council approval?
No, this is just for the variances of the parking in the back and the front yard waiver.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Kelly, would you please take a roll call?
Mr. Turnbull,
Yes.
Mr. Brotzman,
Yes.
Mr. Hanasak,
Yes.
Mr. Penrose,
Yes.
Mr. Samarelli,
Yes.
Mr. Benjavenga,
Yes.
Bobby,
Yes.
Mayor Trussigny.
No.
He's
Oh,
recused.
that's right. That's right. Mr. Swicker
Yes.
and Mr. Duffy.
Yes. Motion passes for the variances. Now I need a motion for the application.
Just for clarity, how about we get a motion on the waivers? Just,
Okay.
there's a couple minor waivers. Yeah, Stan can address for
One
us
with utilities.
clearly.
The overhead electric line, that's the design waiver. And they're seeking a waiver to install curbing on Webster Street and Mole Alley. I think the resolutions to state the planning board supports that, but the final authority is by mayor and council.
I make that motion. I'll second it.
Or by council, rather, I'm sorry.
Keith, you made the motion.
And John second.
John second.
Correct.
Okay.
Made the second, Bill?
John Penrose.
Thank you, John. Okay.
Oh, John Turnbull.
No, Penrose.
No, John Penrose, yeah. Thought so.
Okay, so I just want to make sure we're clear. The design waiver is for the overhead utilities and a recommendation to the town council to grant the design waiver that relates to Mole Alley. Is that correct? Okay, thank you.
Any comments on this by the board? Okay, Kelly, roll call?
Mr. Turnbull,
Yes for both.
Mr. Brotzman,
Yes.
Mr. Hanasak,
Yes.
Mr. Penrose,
Yes.
Mr. Samarelli,
Yes.
Mr. Benjavenga,
Yes.
Bobby,
Yes on one. I'm going to recuse myself on the one coming before council since we're going to be hearing that. I don't think.
Let's just recuse him altogether because it was a joint motion.
okay.
I'm going to recuse myself altogether.
Good idea.
Good idea.
Mr. Swicker
Yes.
and Mr. Duffy.
Yes. Now the application?
I'll make a motion to approve the application with all the conditions.
I second that motion.
Savarino?
Yes.
Savarose? Yes. Okay. John Penrose. Okay.
Ready?
Is there any,
You-
what, Kelly?
I was ready to go. Are you ready?
Got to ask one question first. Is there any comment by the board or questions by the board before we vote on the motion?
So just for clarity, then, this is a motion to grant the application with the requirement the applicant comply with all of the technical comments required by the engineering department as set forth today.
Correct. And also included in the resolution is the engineer's review of the plot,
Grading.
the grading. Yes.
Okay. Yep.
Yeah, thank you.
Yep. Okay. Anything else?
And that motion, Mr. Chairman, would be for the grant of minor subdivision approval and preliminary and final site plan approvals.
Yes.
Yep.
Any other questions? Comments? Kelly?
Mr. Turnbull,
Yes.
Mr. Brotsman,
Yes.
Mr. Hannaford,
Yes.
Mr. Penrose,
Yes.
Mr. Samarelli,
Yes.
Mr. Benjavenka,
Yes.
Bobby,
Yes.
Mr. Swicker,
Yes.
and Mr. Duffy.
Yes.
Okay, thank you, board. Thanks very much.
Okay.
Well done.
Thank you.
Good luck with that.
Here.
Okay. Going on to additional old business, the land use plan and open space discussion. Angela?
Yes, so don't really have anything new for you this month. I had distributed the plan and the maps last month to the board after giving a presentation then. I received some comments back from our attorney. Other than that, I hadn't heard any other comments, so I guess I'm just like to ask now if anyone, hopefully you've had a chance to review the land use plan and the open space plan, and if there are any comments, anything that needs to be incorporated, please let me know now, because I think we would like to try to do the public hearing next month. If it's, if folks don't have any other issues with it, we can notice for that.
Well, the attorney and I had a discussion today about doing it next month.
Okay.
And we have a concern about notifying our neighboring municipalities in a timely manner
Okay.
to get it done next month.
Okay.
Our thought process is that April just may be better.
Yeah, Angela, the next meeting is only 4 weeks away. We're right short month. And just so that we can make sure that this is properly noticed to everybody, I think I want to play it safe and just put it on the April meeting. I don't see any harm in doing that.
Okay, sure. Yep. And then at that time, I can do a more formal presentation and take any comments from the public, and that would be great.
And at 10 days before, it will be put up on the website and the public can review it.
Yeah. So when it would be the drop dead date for comments then, Scott, like if we were to notice, it's at 10 days before, or I'm just saying if folks, take another look at it and have any.
No, the drop dead date for comments is 10 days before the March meeting.
The
March meeting is the 25th, so they have until March 15th. You're not making changes to this after the March meeting.
That's why I wanted to just be sure everybody knew when. Right. Okay.
Okay, March 15th. If you have any other changes to this, get it to Angela. Otherwise,
it's going forward.
going forward. Yes.
Great.
Okay. Does anybody have any other questions about the land use and open space discussion?
I don't have a question, more of an ask. Angela, would you be able to email the maps of that's in that packet? Because trying to look at the maps is a little bit hard on paper.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep.
Okay.
I think they'll work in a PDF form.
Yeah, if they're too large to email, I can do a file share. I'll send a link that you could access through our file share system.
That would be perfect. Thank you.
Sure, no problem.
Okay. Anything else on this discussion? Okay. Minutes, January 28th, 2021. Do I hear a motion?
Motion.
Mr.
Second.
Sorry, who's second?
Severia.
Thank you. Any questions or comments, additions, deletions? Okay, all in favor, say aye.
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 Any against? The ayes have it. The bill list, we have a bill list of Van Cleef for land use plan, $1,312. Chemmy Shine, $98. First Hartford Realty CVS, $182.50. 445 James Street, $240. Ridgepoint, $9,567. Solar Urban Renewal, $120. Do I hear a motion?
Hold on, hold on. I just want to ask Ms. Leffler, you were not able to get my bill on here in time. You're muted.
No, I was not able to get it on time, so, oh,
That's fine. All right.
I could do it. I mean, I have it, it's.
Scott, if we have,
Actually, a bill,
if she has it, can we make a motion to add?
yeah, I
Go
have
ahead and
it.
read it in.
I'd second that also.
Yeah, read it in, Kelly.
Yeah,
Put it in?
Yeah.
Okay, so it's professional services and disbursement rendered through February 8th, 2021. It's total charges of $756.
No. Look down there. It's 1,215.
Oh, that,
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. No, I'm
yeah,
sorry.
that's yeah, we're
Yep,
good.
yep, you're right. 756. Yep. We're good.
Do you want me to read what each one of them are for?
I can just quickly summarize that it had to do with reviewing the land use plan, open space recreation plan documents, communicating with Ms. Knowles, and some conversations with the chairman, the engineer regarding miscellaneous matters for the January reorganization meeting. It was all general stuff related to general planning board stuff.
Okay.
Yeah, $756.
Bill, I have a question. Where does that money come from? The Highlands pays for some of that, right? But the other stuff, it's not. Where does that come from?
Mr. Business Manager, would you like to answer that question?
It would come out of the general fund.
The planning board does have a budget within the town.
Okay.
correct?
Yeah.
And it comes out of that budget.
Okay.
Yeah, in the past, the planning work that the Highlands has paid for has not supported that, but the town has paid that out of a budget for the planning board.
Correct.
So,
Okay.
And then all the Van Cleef bills are all through escrow.
what's on this list is all negative. Land use plan is not. That's planning board. The other ones are all escrow.
Okay.
And the professionals will be paid for Stockton Street, since that resolution's,
Yes, and
they haven't already been paid.
the escrow fund's been replenished, and I thank the board for standing by both Scott and I with that, holding up the resolution until that was in place. So thank you for that.
Correct. I concur.
I processed the two bills yesterday, Bill.
Thank you, Kelly.
Thank you, Kelly.
Welcome.
So do we have a motion on the bills?
Motion. Second.
Who made the motion?
Benjavanga.
Benjamin. And the mayor seconded. Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any nays? Abstentions? Thank you. Okay, is there any public comment at this time?
Yeah, we have Dave Morissette.
Okay. Please state your name and address and give us your comment.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Excellent, that's a good start. My name's David Morissette, 5 Fairview Heights, Phillipsburg, New Jersey. I just wanted to say I hadn't attended meetings for quite a while, and I've attended the last several meetings. And I would like to say to you, Chairman Duffy, and the board members that I think you're doing a great job with the meetings. They're actually very enjoyable.
Thank you.
Oh, you're quite welcome. In the last meeting, you mentioned that you wanted the waste hauler on Main Street to appear at this meeting with site plans or action was going to be recommended by the board. Has this company ever presented anything before the board during your tenures, Chairman Duffy? And what is the status of them presenting site plans for approval?
Well, I, as actually a citizen of Phillipsburg, complained that they do not have the proper permits. As far as I know, they have never presented themselves in front of the planning board. I don't know if they've ever presented site plans or anything, an application at all. That I am not aware of. And again, last meeting, the town business manager said that he would get together with the town attorney and the town engineer to discuss the situation, and I don't know what the outcome of that was at this point.
Thank you.
Chairman,
Yes.
if I may, just to enter into the record, the company in discussion that we were just discussing, LMR, were they invited since we've had the new planning board in effect?
Were they invited? It's not, my understanding, it's not our position to invite them. They have to have certain permits to be operating in the town. They and their professionals should be taking care of that.
Right. Just Mr. Duffy, just so Chairman Duffy, I apologize. Just so you're aware, the former planning board was in a majority of the former planning board was in direct conflict, as they had all waged a campaign against a public campaign against the applicant and had signed a petition, which would have negated their vote. They would not have been able to vote. They would not have had a majority. So
Not all the planning board, Bobby.
No, not all of. I said a majority. Sorry.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, no, a majority. That would have taken away. I believe at that point in time, they felt that there was the planning board. There was an issue. They were being. It would have been. They would have been discriminated against, right?
Well, they should have made it.
Oh, okay. So
I believe the attorney did contact counsel. So just to put it, just to enter into record that I do believe that's why it may not hurt on behalf of the planning board to reach out to them to see if they'd come before us now.
Well,
let me comment on this. Go ahead, Bob.
I was just going to say that the planning board, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, Scott, the planning board doesn't have the jurisdiction to tell someone to come before them. That's the administration of government that has that.
Yeah, there's a couple of concerns I have about the comments I've heard so far. Number one, he's correct. We don't have any authority to tell anybody to come or command them to appear before the board. So nothing we can do there. The concern expressed by Mr. Duffy and others is that business or businesses are operating without having proper approvals. The enforcement of that is a matter expressly vested in the executive branch of the municipal government. So that would be the executive branch is the mayor's office, which then comes the police department, the zoning officer, all of those come under the executive branch. Enforcement of laws and ordinances is always an executive branch function of the government. So there's nothing we can do about it. Whether if they didn't submit an application and somebody has a concern about it, that needs to be brought to the zoning officer, and the mayor's office, the executive branch, to deal with that. In addition, I would urge all board members not to comment on this issue at all, because at some point, this is a hypothetical discussion, and at some point there may be an application and by LMR or anybody else, and you don't want to have prejudged the matter or tainted the waters by making comments that today don't really serve any purpose. And Mr. Fulper, you're a member of the legislative branch in the town council, and some of these issues could come before you at the request of the executive branch. So it's probably in your best interest not to comment on this at the planning board meeting.
I understand. It's still like it entered into the record, and it's nothing I wouldn't have said there that I didn't say here. So,
okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
I'm just curious now, is there any update on LMR?
Rob Benzavenga, our business administrator, I want him to comment on this, and him and I basically have the same comment on this. If you would, sir.
Yeah, they submitted some correspondence and were told to revise things. But like I said, like Mr. Wilhelm said, I will not really feel comfortable commenting on that as a member of the board. That's more of the zoning officer's jurisdiction. If Scott, I mean, I just don't feel comfortable. If somebody wants to,
I'll say this much, Rob. They did, and you are correct. There was correspondence. They did submit. It was rejected as being woefully incomplete, and hopefully we hear from them soon.
Correct.
Have we heard anything from the antique mall?
I would encourage, it's the same situation there. I would encourage anybody that if they have a question as a member of the public to contact administration and the mayor's office outside of the board's jurisdiction so that we can get you an answer. Scott, I think you would agree.
Yeah, I concur with your statement. That's correct.
And council is taking action on, if you recall, after first reading the comments, the ordinance came down regarding that property, and this board had made a master plan consistency review and sent comments back to council, and the ordinance is going through revisions now to enable that. I believe it was first reading. I don't know if they've had second yet.
Okay, the two other things that I would like to bring up. We have two council resolutions that we need to look over. I believe the engineer and the planner have been working on something, but it wasn't really ready for this meeting. So those two council resolutions will be reviewed next meeting. The second thing I'd like to bring up is I hope you've all signed up for your classes, your land use classes, those that need to do that.
So I still have 3 people that want to speak too.
Yeah. When you get a date set up, Kelly, you're gonna have us all put in at the same time?
I actually already did some of them. I didn't get a lot of it, some of the other ones, but they've already been registered. I already did all that. You should be getting something on your emails. Whatever email you gave me is what you'll get that you're registered.
Mr. Duffy, Kelly found a lower price, got us better dates. She's done a lot of good work.
She has.
Thank you.
She certainly has.
You said you had 3 other public.
Yes, I have a Joe M.
I'm Joe Miner. I live at 392 South Main Street in Phillipsburg, and I want to make sure I don't lose my opportunity to speak about the state liner proposal, which has to do with that map you're drawing. There was a date mentioned, March 15th. I don't want to lose my right to criticize the state liner proposal. Is this the time, or is that coming in the future?
That's coming for the public. That's coming in the future. The March 15th is a drop dead deadline that I have set for the board members to make any comments to the planner, so that we have it correct in our March meeting and can have a public meeting in April concerning it. So you will still get your shot at it, Mr. Miner.
So at the April meeting, that's when I can speak, and after I speak, you still get to change your mind. Is that correct?
Yes.
Thank you. And April what?
25th. April 26th. 22nd.
Okay. Thank you.
22nd.
22nd or
22nd, Mr. Miner.
22. Thank you.
Yes.
Okay.
I have Frank McVeigh.
Mr. McVeigh?
Frank McVeigh, 489 Corliss Avenue. Good evening. Thank you for letting me speak. I got on a little bit late. I'm not sure. I was on social media earlier today, and then there was I saw a post in the Warren County. So if someone please correct me. I wasn't sure. There was a Teresa Bender over Chapman or Chipman, something that posted over something about the District 5 or was that ever presented tonight regarding the District 5 redevelopment and the
No,
that,
No, Councilman, it was not. It will be presented next month. The engineer and the planner have put together the necessary information that the board needs, and it will be presented next month.
okay, and Chairman, please, I love you to death. I know you personally, but please do not refer to me as councilman in this meeting. I am just a resident. Like I said, Frank McVeigh, 49 Corliss Avenue. We've been through this before. I do appreciate that for all legal reasons. I do want to say this also to Attorney Wilhelm. Council appointee Fulper was speaking. You did overspeak him. Honestly, I'm not that impressed with your movements throughout this meeting, but I was trying to understand the planning board member Fulper's point, but you overtalked him. I'm trying to figure out, is he recused or not recused, or how are we moving forward with his voting? And I would ask you to speak to this point, please.
First of all, I don't think I spoke over Mr. Fulper, and if he thought I did, I'm sure he's a big enough boy that he could tell me that and speak for himself. The only thing that I recommended Mr. Fulper be recused from was the design waiver, which is going to come before the town council. And whether you're impressed with me, I don't really care. And I think it would be appropriate if you call Miss Bender Chapman by her right name. I don't think that was appropriate to call her Ms. Bender over Chapman. So you're not really being very helpful with your comments.
I didn't, my man, I didn't say that. And for what your pay grade is, what my pay grade is, I am more unimpressed by you.
Okay.
I don't know Ms. Chapman. You obviously do. So I just tried to figure out what it was, but that, if that's what you want to say, that's great. More unimpressed by you.
That's great, Mr. McVeigh. I don't know who she is. I never heard of the woman. Just just the way you commented on her.
Okay.
If Mr. Fulper has any questions, I'm happy to answer his questions.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. McVeigh.
Duffy.
Next is Teresa Chapman.
Okay. Ms. Chapman, your name and address, please.
Teresa Bender Chapman, Mr. Vic, I live in Harmony Township. Mr. McVeigh, we actually have met a couple of times, and we've emailed back and forth. So it's Teresa Bender Chapman. Thank you. With the riverfront development plan and the plan that Mrs. Knowles will be presenting, does the industrial extension impact the Delaware River Park at all?
Well, we're going to discuss this next month. The board, as I've said a couple times here tonight, the engineer and the planner are created a presentation for the board to hear, so that we'll be able to see what is impacted and what is not.
Okay, thank you. I just have two other quick questions. The Delaware River Park, is that Green Acres?
That's a question that probably should be addressed at the April meeting.
Okay. And then just another one that has to do with the billing. For the Bridgepoint 78, the $9,567, is that like a recurring monthly fee that takes care of the Bridgepoint 78?
No, that is for work that the engineer or the planner has done for that project. over the past month.
Ms. Chapman, where's your residence again?
It's Harmony Township.
Harmony Township. No disrespect, but this is the Phillipsburg Planning Board. And
I'm
you know, if
aware,
you
thank
ask questions about our finances, I mean, it should go to tax-paying members. Do you own property in Phillipsburg? Pay taxes in Phillipsburg?
No, I don't, but
I don't mean any disrespect, but I mean, this is a town of Phillipsburg Planning Board. And
Mr. Zwicker, I would hold on. It's a public comment. Anybody from the public is allowed to be here. And unless she's saying something that is defamatory or unlawful, I think she has a right to be heard.
Thank you. I do believe in the First Amendment. So thank you very much. I'm asking, if you want to know, I'm asking about that bill because, as you know, in Warren County, there are warehouses going up everywhere. So I'm just asking because some planning boards feel that there will be rateables and no impact financially to the board. So I'm asking about this fee because it is directly, representative of the warehouse at Bridgepoint 78, and I wanted to see how it related.
All right,
Chairman, may I? Let me answer that. That my invoice to the planning board is for escrow charges on Bridgepoint 78 project for construction inspection and construction administration to assure compliance with the approved plans and the resolution of this board and the requirements of the town. It's not a fee. We bill monthly. It will vary depending on how much construction activity and how many people I have in support of that.
Okay, so just to clarify, so this is an ongoing administrative fee?
Negative.
Okay, then I must have misheard you. I apologize. Okay, thank you very much.
Good evening. Kelly, is there anyone else?
Muted, Kelly.
No, there's no one else.
Okay. Does anyone else have anything for the good of the board? Hearing none, do I hear a motion for adjournment?
Motion.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any against? The ayes have it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Everyone have a good one.
Good night, all.
Bye.